They are now redundant, and we've got people who can't even match the level of output that these units can do.
We're trying to protect more than just metal and wires. It's safeguarding technological progress.
There's a lot of fear around things that are new and unknown.
Salvage is the story of a society that is struggling to cope with the evolution of technology and how one unit or one robot chooses kindness in the face of adversity. I originally started thinking about making this film at the beginning of 2022, and I hadn't made a short film for a couple of years, and I wanted to do something that was representative of my perspective on technology in today's world. Technology is something that moves so quickly that over the course of just a couple of years, the advancements have been so profound, it's only a matter of time until someone is going to fight for the rights of this technology to exist on an equal level to humans. When I started thinking about the concept of what Salvage would be, I theorized this world that there is a technology that, was so lifelike and so human-like that it was going to be a huge debate to determine whether or not that, these robots, these units should be treated as humans. One really interesting thing about this film that I had never done before was I created this world for this story to exist in, and I didn't actually write a script for it. I just wrote like a 2-page outline detailing the events that happen in the film, and I also drew up a flow chart that describes the way that the events take place. So these characters are coming from very different perspectives, and then so on the shooting day, we showed up at the location that we had for the day, and I would go over the entire outline with the actor, and we would discuss things about what that particular character would be thinking and feeling, and then we would just essentially roll camera, and then I would sit behind the monitor and we would talk it out. I would essentially be interviewing these people in the universe of this film. That Upper State Entertainment, as a production company, would be interviewing all of these people, and then putting together this sort of documentary, this like Vice-style documentary about the events that had taken place in this universe. So I essentially mimicked what it would be like to make a real documentary about a series of events that had occurred, and so it was a lot of fun. We just kind of hashed it out. We talked it out, and because it was an entirely improvisational performance, it has this like very real substance to the speech, and it's like the way that the actors deliver the lines, and like the way that they are present in the moment is like it's sort of unparalleled. They wouldn't have lines, they wouldn't have scripts that they would be saying like word for word if it was a real documentary. So I wanted it to be as lifelike as possible as a documentary, and I think that the improvisational performance it brought a lot to the film in like a really big way. It was a lot to deal with though, because in the editing phase, every character talked for maybe an hour or so each time. So, I ended up with like 7.5 hours of interview footage that I had to go through and cut down. It was quite a lot to deal with. I think, improv has its place, and I think that obviously it's not good. It can't be used for everything. All of the actors that I had a part of the film were absolutely tremendous. I went through a casting process early in 2022. I think maybe we had like 1,000 people, I think, total submit for all of the roles. So at the end of the process, we ended up with a very full and diverse cast that I'm just like so glad that we had everyone to be a part of it. And each person brought like a really unique style to the way that they provided improvisational lines to that character, and it was so much fun, kind of like really sitting there across with the actor and like creating this stuff like together. So I would ask questions and they would have responses, and I would tweak my questions to try to get them to say something specific. And I felt like it was a really great lesson in directing in a lot of ways, because it was a lot of very immediate feedback and me thinking to myself, okay, if I need them to say XYZ, how can I get them there? Or what kind of a question can I ask them to kind of make them say it without asking them directly, because I wanted that natural performance. So it was a learning process for me, but something that I'm really grateful that went really well. After shooting all the interviews and after shooting all the B-roll, I started cutting together my film, and I still was like, didn't really have an ending. I thought I had an ending. It just didn't fit the film. So I essentially scrapped that ending, and it was a lot to think about for weeks and weeks. I was editing the film and trying to figure out, like, what's the best way to kind of end this thing. So eventually I landed on the idea of having this main character robot kind of interact with another person in this kind of kind way, because here throughout the film they're experiencing all of this like adversity, and so despite the fact that this main character robot was experiencing all these things, they chose to kind of show kindness. And I think it kind of like shows a story arc for this specific robot that's kind of scared but chooses to be kind to this other homeless person. And it ties together as a sort of a metaphor for homelessness in Los Angeles, because everywhere we look in the city, homelessness has been a problem for a very long time. And in a way, these robots that are sort of lost with like nothing to do are in a lot of ways representative of the homeless population in Los Angeles, because all in all, like each person is their own unique individual, and in a way that's like kind of like how the robots are. Like each robot is its own, it has its own personality and it is its own like person. So when I had decided to kind of like have this robot at the very beginning of the film pick up this like soda can, which is in a lot of ways this like icon of the homeless population, and then giving it to another person at the end of the film as this kind of gesture of friendship, I think is kind of opens the door for a viewer to kind of to see that these robots are in fact very very real, have like a real personality, and have the ability to kind of like feel compassion towards another person, another human that's like kind of suffering. I felt that it made sense to end it that way. So in order to get that ending, I put another shoot day in an alleyway, and we shot the entire scene at the end. And on that last shoot, I think the representation of both the homeless population and these like struggling robots were like represented really well, and they kind of came together in the end, and had like a common ground where they were like both struggling. Executing the VFX for this film is something that I had never attempted to do before. I had always really been interested in character animation and mocap data and all that kind of stuff, but I had never done it before. So I thought, what better way to do it than with a robot? I had done some simple rigging before, but this was like rigging an entire like hard surface robot with a lot of different elements, even things that needed to move and be like a dynamic part of the robot's like anatomy. But at the end of the day, it was really well worth the efforts, because I'm really pleased with the way that the VFX look for it. This film also contains the very first time that I've ever tried to execute a 100% CGI shot, so that was a pretty big deal for me. There's a handful of them. One of them is when the main robot character is like looking into the van of these robots that have been disassembled. That was 100% CGI, because it was just so much easier to just do a full CGI shot. So, and then of course the other shots in the film that are 100% CGI were of the alleyway, where you've got the robot walking through the alleyway both during the daytime and at nighttime. And so I really love the way that it turned out. All in all, it took me about 9 months to finish all of the VFX for this short film. And of course, originally when I set out to do this film, it was just supposed to be something that was gonna be like a fun, quick, short film where I could interview some people, and it was gonna be the first film I had made in a couple of years since the pandemic, and it was gonna be like bada bing, bada boom, get it done and over with. No, of courst not. I started with like 10 VFX shots, and I ended up making like 30 of them, because I wanted to keep filling it out and like make it, more interesting and more shots, of course, right? Another huge part of this film that was really important to me was the music. This was the first time I had done a film where I actually hired a composer and didn't just like make something myself or get some stock music and modify it. I met Giacomo through a job posting, and he had such a tremendous talent for the style of music that I was looking for. Like, I knew right away that he was gonna be perfect for this job. So, I attempted together a bunch of ideas, and, we communicated over the course of, a couple of months to kind of really design the style and this, the vibe of what I was going for this film. It's supposed to be something that was, you know, gritty and like very serious, but also kind of sci-fi, and you know, but at the end it's got a lot of heart. He absolutely crushed it with the music, and 100% can't wait to work with him again. And you know, I think that the film is like 1,000% better because of the music, and I'm so glad it turned out the way that it did. At the end of the day, this film was full of challenges, of things that I had never done before, and I feel like I say that about every film that I make, but I feel like that is the one way that you learn and progress as, you know, a creative person. And I can't wait to take all of these new skills and new things that I've learned into the next film that I make. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Until next time, thanks for watching.